The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as 23-year-old Keisha Williams stared at the contract in front of her. Her hands shook as she read the words that would determine her family's fate. The billionaire across the mahogany table, Mr. Harrison, smiled like a cat who had cornered a mouse. His expensive suit and gold watch gleamed under the harsh office lighting. "Just sign here, Miss Williams," he said, tapping his manicured finger on the signature line. "Your grandmother's medical bills will be paid in full. All $150,000. Keisha's throat felt dry. Her grandmother Nana had raised her since she was 7, working 3 jobs to keep food on the table in their small Chicago apartment. Now Nana lay in the hospital, her kidneys failing, insurance barely covering anything. The doctors said she needed surgery soon or she might not make it through the month. "I need to read this first," Keisha said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Harrison's smile tightened. "Of course, take your time. Though I should mention, this offer expires at 5 o'clock today. It's already 4:30. Keisha's heart pounded as she scanned the legal document. The words swam before her eyes. She had worked as a paralegal for 2 years, helping people with simple legal matters in her neighborhood. She knew enough to spot trouble when she saw it. Her eyes stopped on Clause 7. She read it once, then twice, then 3 times. Her blood ran cold. "Excuse me, but this clause is a trap," she said, looking up at Mr. Harrison. The billionaire's smile instantly faded. His gray eyes turned hard as steel. "I beg your pardon. This clause says that if I can't pay back the money within 1 year, you get ownership of my grandmother's house and all her belongings. But the interest rate you're charging is 40%. Nobody can pay that back in a year." Mr. Harrison leaned back in his leather chair. "Business is business, Miss Williams. Your grandmother needs surgery. I'm offering to help. You're offering to steal our home." The silence in the room felt thick and dangerous. Keisha could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. She thought about Nana lying in that hospital bed, asking for her every day. She thought about their little house on the south side, where Nana had painted the kitchen yellow because it reminded her of sunshine, where they had spent countless evenings braiding hair and talking about dreams. "You have 25 minutes to decide," Mr. Harrison said, checking his expensive watch. "Sign or find another way to save your grandmother's life." Keisha stood up, her legs unsteady. She clutched the contract in her hands, knowing that whatever she decided in the next few minutes would change everything forever. Keisha stumbled out of the downtown office building and into the busy Chicago street. Car horns blared and people rushed past her, but she felt like she was moving in slow motion. Her phone buzzed with a text from her cousin Amara. "Nana's asking for you. Doctors say surgery needs to happen this week." She found herself sitting on a bench outside the building, staring at the contract. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Growing up, Nana had always told her, "Baby girl, when you can't see the way forward, you pray and you think. God gave you a brain for a reason." But right now, Keisha felt like her brain was full of cotton. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend Destiny, who worked as a nurse at the hospital. "Girl, where are you?" Destiny asked. "I just got off my shift and your Nana was asking about you again." "I'm downtown." "Destiny, I don't know what to do." Keisha's voice cracked as she explained the contract and Mr. Harrison's trap. "That man is trying to steal your family's home," Destiny said, her voice rising with anger. "Keisha, you cannot sign that paper." "But if I don't, Nana dies. The doctors won't do surgery without payment up front. Insurance won't cover it all. There has to be another way. I've tried everything. I started a GoFundMe page that raised $300. I called every charity in the city. I even asked the church, but they're struggling too." Keisha heard Destiny sigh on the other end of the phone. "What about that legal aid clinic where you volunteer? Maybe they can help. They're swamped with cases. Besides, what can they do? I need money, not legal advice." After hanging up, Keisha walked slowly toward the hospital. The autumn wind cut through her thin jacket, but she barely felt it. She thought about all the stories Nana had told her about their family. How her great-grandmother had saved money for years to buy that little house. How it had been passed down through 3 generations of strong black women who had worked hard and sacrificed everything for their families. The house wasn't worth much by today's standards, but it was theirs. It was where Keisha had learned to read, sitting on Nana's lap in the old rocking chair. It was where she had cried after her first heartbreak and where Nana had made her favorite sweet potato pie every birthday. At the hospital, Keisha found Nana sleeping. Her grandmother looked so small in the big hospital bed, connected to tubes and machines. Her dark skin had a grayish tint that scared Keisha. The doctors had explained that without surgery, the toxins would keep building up in her body. "Hey, Nana," Keisha whispered, taking her grandmother's hand. Nana's eyes fluttered open. Even sick, her smile could light up a room. "There's my baby girl. How was your day?" Keisha forced herself to smile. "It was fine, Nana. How are you feeling?" "Oh, you know me. Tough as old boots." Nana squeezed Keisha's hand with surprising strength. "The Lord's going to work this out, baby. You'll see." As Keisha sat beside her grandmother's bed, watching the machines beep and hum, she felt the weight of an impossible choice pressing down on her shoulders. The next morning, Keisha woke up in the uncomfortable hospital chair where she had spent the night. Her neck ached and her back was stiff, but she didn't want to leave Nana alone. The contract sat on the bedside table like a ticking bomb. She had until 5 o'clock today to decide. "Child, you need to go home and get some rest," Nana said, her voice weak but firm. "And you need to shower. You smell like hospital disinfectant." Despite everything, Keisha laughed. Even sick, Nana was still taking care of her. "I'll be back in a few hours," Keisha promised, kissing her grandmother's forehead. On the bus ride home, Keisha stared out the window at the familiar streets of her neighborhood. Corner stores with handwritten signs, kids playing in small yards, elderly folks sitting on porches watching the world go by. This was her community, her people. But what could they do to help? Most everyone was struggling just to get by. When she got to her street, she saw something that made her stop in her tracks. There were people everywhere. Her neighbors were standing in front of Nana's house, talking in small groups. She recognized Mrs. Johnson from next door, Mr. Pete from the corner store, and several families from their church. "Keisha," called out Mrs. Johnson, waving her over. "We heard about your Nana. How is she?" "She's hanging in there," Keisha said, confused about why everyone was gathered. "What's going on here?" "Destiny called Pastor Williams this morning," said Mr. Pete. "She told him about your situation. We're having a community meeting." "A meeting about what?" "About helping your grandmother, child," said Mrs. Johnson. "Come on inside." Keisha's small living room was packed with people. Some sat on the couch and chairs, others stood along the walls. She recognized most faces from the neighborhood and church, but there were strangers too. A woman in a business suit stood at the front of the room. "Everyone, this is Keisha," Pastor Williams announced. "Keisha, this is Dr. Angela Davis. She's a lawyer who specializes in predatory lending cases." Dr. Davis stepped forward and shook Keisha's hand. "I heard about your situation from Destiny. Can you show me the contract?" With trembling hands, Keisha pulled out the papers. Dr. Davis put on her reading glasses and studied the document carefully. The room fell silent except for the sound of pages turning. "This is exactly what I expected," Dr. Davis said finally. "This contract is illegal. The interest rate violates federal lending laws. Mr. Harrison has been doing this to families all over the city." "But even if it's illegal, Nana still needs surgery," Keisha said, her voice breaking. "Which is why we're all here," Pastor Williams said. "Tell her, Mrs. Johnson." Mrs. Johnson stood up, holding a notebook. "We've been calling people all morning. The Johnson family is donating $500. The Rodriguez family, $300. Mr. Pete closed his store early and collected donations from customers. The church is contributing $2,000 from our emergency fund," Pastor Williams added. "My nursing school is doing a fundraiser," said a young woman Keisha didn't recognize. "We should have another 1,000 by tomorrow." One by one, people stood up and announced their contributions. Money, yes, but also time and services. Someone offered to drive Keisha to the hospital every day. Another person promised to bring meals. A contractor said he would fix the leaky roof on Nana's house for free. Keisha felt tears streaming down her face. She had been so focused on the impossible choice in front of her that she had forgotten the most important thing her grandmother had taught her. In times of trouble, family and community come together. By the end of the community meeting, they had raised $37,000 in donations and pledges. It was more money than Keisha had ever seen in one place, but it still wasn't enough for Nana's surgery. "We're going to keep working," Dr. Davis assured her. "But first, I want to deal with Mr. Harrison. His business practices are hurting families all over the city. Would you be willing to help me build a case against him?" "What would I have to do?" "Testify about what happened in that meeting. Help us prove that he's deliberately targeting vulnerable families." Keisha felt a flutter of fear in her stomach. Going up against a billionaire seemed impossible. But then she thought about other families who might be trapped the same way she almost was. "Yes," she said. "I'll do it." That afternoon, Dr. Davis took Keisha to the office of a local television news reporter. The reporter, a young black woman named Shanice, listened carefully as Keisha told her story. "We want to do a story about predatory lending in Chicago," Shanice explained. "Your case could help expose what's happening to other families." "But what if Mr. Harrison gets angry? What if he tries to hurt my family?" "He's already trying to hurt your family," Dr. Davis pointed out. "The difference is, now you're fighting back." The next morning, Keisha woke up to her phone ringing constantly. The news story had aired the night before, and people were calling from all over the city. Some were other families who had been approached by Mr. Harrison. Others were offering to help with Nana's medical bills. "Girl, you're famous," Destiny said when she called. "The story is all over social media. #SaveNana is trending." Keisha felt overwhelmed. She had never wanted to be in the spotlight. All she wanted was to save her grandmother's life. At the hospital, she found Nana watching the news coverage on the small television in her room. "That's my baby girl on TV," Nana said proudly, though her voice was getting weaker. "Standing up for what's right." "Nana, I'm scared," Keisha admitted. "What if this doesn't work? What if we can't raise enough money?" Nana took her hand. "Baby, do you remember what I always told you about planting seeds? You said when you plant seeds, you don't see the harvest right away. You have to have faith and keep watering them." "That's right. You planted seeds of courage when you stood up to that man. You planted seeds of love when you brought our community together. Now we just have to have faith in the harvest." That evening, Dr. Davis called with news. The state attorney general's office is opening an investigation into Mr. Harrison's business practices. And Keisha, there's something else. A group of doctors saw the news story. They want to help. "What do you mean?" "They're offering to do your grandmother's surgery for free. All we need to cover is the hospital costs, and with the donations you've received, we can handle that." Keisha dropped the phone and started crying. For the first time in weeks, these were tears of joy. 3 weeks later, Keisha sat in the same hospital chair, but everything was different. Nana was awake and alert, her color returning to normal. The surgery had been a complete success. The doctors said she would need physical therapy, but she was going to be fine. "I told you the Lord would work it out," Nana said, though her voice was still weak. "But he used you to do it, baby girl." The room was filled with flowers and cards from people all over the city. The GoFundMe page had raised over $60,000, more than enough to cover all the medical expenses. The extra money was being used to start a fund to help other families facing similar medical crises. Dr. Davis knocked on the door and entered with a big smile. "I have good news. Mr. Harrison has agreed to settle. He's paying a substantial fine, and he's been ordered to stop his predatory lending practices. More importantly, he's agreed to fund a free legal clinic in your neighborhood." "What does that mean?" Keisha asked. "It means other families won't have to face what you faced alone. They'll have legal help when they need it most." A few days later, as they prepared to take Nana home, Keisha reflected on everything that had happened. She had started this journey feeling powerless and alone. She had been ready to sign away her family's home just to save her grandmother's life. But she had learned something important. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. Sometimes standing up for what's right, even when you're scared, creates ripples that reach farther than you ever imagined. "You ready to go home, Nana?" Keisha asked, helping her grandmother into the wheelchair. "I'm ready," Nana said. "But first, there's something I want to tell you. That house you were so worried about losing? I never told you this, but I've been saving money for years to pay it off completely. I wanted to surprise you on your 25th birthday." Keisha stared at her grandmother in shock. "You mean, the house is paid for, baby? Has been for 6 months now. I just never got around to filing the paperwork because I was waiting for the right moment." Keisha started laughing and crying at the same time. "So Mr. Harrison couldn't have taken it anyway?" "Not a chance. But you didn't know that when you stood up to him. You fought for what was right even when you thought you might lose everything. That's what I'm most proud of." As they rode home through the familiar streets, Keisha saw her neighborhood with new eyes. These weren't just houses and apartment buildings. This was a community of people who looked out for each other. This was home. Mrs. Johnson was waiting on the porch with a pot of soup. Mr. Pete had closed his store early to welcome them home. Pastor Williams and half the church congregation were gathered in the small yard, along with many of the neighbors who had helped during the crisis. "Welcome home," they all shouted as Keisha helped Nana out of the car. That night, as Nana rested in her own bed for the first time in weeks, Keisha sat in the yellow kitchen thinking about everything that had happened. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Shanice, the news reporter. "The legal clinic opens next month. They want you to be the first community advocate. Interested?" Keisha smiled and typed back, "Yes." She had learned that sometimes what seems like the worst moment of your life is actually the beginning of something beautiful. Sometimes the seed you plant in fear grows into a harvest of hope. And sometimes, when you think you're saving one person, you end up helping an entire community. Outside, she could hear the sounds of her neighborhood settling into evening. Children playing, families talking on porches, the distant sound of music from someone's radio. These were the sounds of home, of community, of people taking care of each other. Nana was right. The Lord had worked it out. But he had used ordinary people doing extraordinary things out of love. And Keisha had learned that she was one of those people, capable of more courage and strength than she had ever imagined. The story of the girl who stood up to the billionaire became legend in their neighborhood. But for Keisha, it was just the beginning of a life spent fighting for justice and helping others find their own courage to stand up for what's right.